The reality of creation itself, woven into the imagination of man, equates in a natural phenomenon, which is subcreated storytelling. Hello there. Welcome to Amalion. In this video today, I wanted to talk about how J.R.R. Tolkien understood the literary genre faerie, or as it is more commonly known today as fantasy. And I also want to analyze the term subcreation, which Tolkien himself created or coined. In so doing, I hope that I might be able to help some people understand these subjects because, well, they're very fascinating, and when you do grasp them, it renders Tolkien's fiction even more enjoyable to read, or at least that has been my own personal experience. You may or may not have read this particular book before, but in any case, if you're interested in learning more about the writings of Tolkien, specifically the way that he viewed the literary genre faerie and how he understood it academically, then this book is an excellent resource to take a look at. The book I speak of is his essay on fairy stories. Inside, we will find that Tolkien uses the term subcreation. But in such fantasy, as it is called, new form is made, faerie begins, man becomes a subcreator. He uses this term to describe the pursuit one makes in creating their own fictional world. Or, as Verlin Flieger and Douglas A. Anderson have defined the word, the creative interaction of human imagination and human language that gives rise to myth. So you have this fusion of the imagination, right, with language, and you have this fusion between the two of them. The term merely explains the fundamental act of fantastical creation by the hands of free-willed human beings. Concerning Tolkien's own experience subcreating secondary worlds, he once said about his storytelling abilities, "They arose in my mind as given things. Always I had the sense of recording what was already there somewhere, not of inventing." Which in other words means that the children of God cannot create or invent another world, because only God created the one world. He, God, is the only inventor. Therefore, his children can only subcreate fictional worlds with words, each letter acting as, one could say, paint or ink or pencil or clay, whichever preferred medium you wish. We merely borrow the trees and the mountains and the birds and the beauty of this world, and we use them to create something new. We become recorders of that which is already created. To call one's subcreated world fictional is only done in a practical sense. After all, one cannot walk upon that world in real life, because secondary worlds and the myths that take place in them are not at all fictional, for they are a reflection of that which is utterly real, God's reality. Of course, this perspective is entirely Christian, but it is essential to see it in this way because we are talking about Tolkien and his own view towards the subject of faerie, which was Catholic. He experienced moments where he did not need to attempt inventing his own stories, because many appeared in his imagination of their own accord. The reality of creation itself, woven into the imagination of man, equates in a natural phenomenon, which is subcreated storytelling. Tolkien understood this phenomenon as the natural occurrence which takes place when man desires to pursue secondary world building. Natural because we already reside in the one world created by God. Therefore, any other world we attempt to produce will be a model or imitation of this primary world that we are in. So there you have it. For those reasons, man is not a creator, but a sub-creator, the wielder of a secondary pen beside he who wields the master pen, God. This Christian perspective of Tolkien's is also revealed in his view of the fairy realm itself. He understood the term fairy in its etymological form. Being a philologist, of course, naturally he would look at it in its etymological history. The Oxford English Dictionary defines the word as the realm or world of the fays or fairies, fairyland, fairydom. And before I go on, please forgive my lack of proper pronunciation. I am not fluent in Middle English, Old French, or Latin. The word fays derives from the Middle English word fai, which means possessing magical powers. Fai derives from the Old French word fée, which means fairy. Fée derives from the Latin word fata, which means the fates. And this is the plural form. The singular form is fatum, or fate, of course. This word, fatum, is the neuter past participle form of the word fari, which in English translates to speak. Therefore, after following the trail until we have reached the very beginning, or at least as far back as is possible, we discover that the word fairy means spoken, or to speak. Obviously, speaking implies the use of words. In this way, we see that Tolkien understood the world of faerie as a land created with words, in which one may catch a glimpse of the world depicted in a fashion that reflects the visual desires of the sub-creator himself. Tolkien believed that our primary world endured the fall of man, thus it is marred. The world, before the fall, was far more beautiful than it is now. Therefore, in Middle-earth, Tolkien filled it with a vision of a land that resembles the Christian paradise, to which he ever longed to enter and roam in peace himself, a lovely world filled with purity, enchantment, and wonder. Therefore, faerie is simply a glimpse of the kingdom of heaven. Yet he also knew that in the same way that our primary world is fallen, so too is the sub-creator himself fallen, flawed or marred, which means that anything man strives to make will in some way be flawed as well. Therefore, the realm of faerie is not simply beautiful, but also perilous. After all, it is not heaven itself, which is devoid of evil, but a glimpse of it created by man. As Tolkien himself said at the start of his essay on fairy stories, "Faerie is a perilous land, and in it are pitfalls for the unwary, and dungeons for the overbold." Probably the most obvious example of this view that can be found in his writings is the invention of Melkor, and of Sauron, and of the orcs. In fairyland, we can espy an enchanted and enriched version of our primary world, as it could have been had it not endured the fall. This Christian understanding of paradise, and specifically the idea that fairyland is a glimpse of paradise, is found expressed also in Tolkien's story Leaf by Niggle. I will read the following passages. He turned to the shepherd. "Are you a guide?" he asked. "Could you tell me the name of this country?" "Don't you know?" said the man. "It is Niggle's country. It is Niggle's picture." "Niggle's picture?" said Parrish in astonishment. "Did you think of all this, Niggle? I never knew you were so clever. Why didn't you tell me?" "He tried to tell you long ago," said the man, "but you would not look. He had only got canvas and paint in those days, and you wanted to mend your roof with them." "But it did not look like this then, not real," said Parrish. "No, it was only a glimpse then," said the man. These subjects, fairy and subcreation, and how they coincide with Tolkien's fiction, are exceedingly fascinating, and I enjoy talking about them probably more than any other potential area within Tolkien studies. With that said, I hope this video helped you in seeing a new perspective of Tolkien's works. Thank you for watching.